Hey, welcome to the LCBJJ Talks podcast, a podcast about the students of Lake County Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where they share their experiences as they navigate through Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Lake County BJJ is located right in Mundelein, Illinois. If you want more information, please visit us at lakecountybjj.com. So, Nefeli, you're the head kids instructor here. You did judo. And you're Melly's mom. That's the most important thing that I need to convey to everybody. Is she here? No. But I always like to, I want to ask, like, how long have you been doing, you're different because everybody else done jiu-jitsu. You started with judo. How long, what age did you start, like, judo, essentially?
Yeah, I started judo when I was 4.5, so I was really little. Basically just because George, my older brother George, started it. So like a week or two after he started, I wanted to do it too because he was doing it, so I did, and just kind of took from there.
It's a common theme with kids. When the older sibling starts doing stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
And then they're like, the little one's like, I want to do it too. And so how long? Well, you started judo 4.5, and you went all the way through. How many times a week did you train as a kid? Do you remember?
As a kid, yeah, pretty consistently 3 times a week. And then as I got older, once I was like, I'm going to say like maybe middle school, like 12, 13-ish, I started taking it more seriously because I was competing like internationally and doing national tournaments. And it was something I wanted to pursue and that I was trying to pursue. So then it bumped up to like 4 or 5 times a week. And
Bam.
Yeah, kept going up from there.
When did you start, like, did you make a decision early on to start competing, or did it take you a little bit? Did anybody push you to do it?
Man, honestly, I don't know if I remember because I was 4.5.
Yeah.
I did my first tournament by the time I was 5.
Wow. Okay.
I liked doing it when I won. I cried a lot when I was little, and I'd lose to girls that I think I got really used to winning when I was little.
Yeah.
So once I turned like 7 maybe, and girls started like actually developing skills and not just being like 4 years old and like doing osotogaris at each other the whole time, I had to grow. So whenever I'd lose, I'd like cry super hard. I'd get over it. My dad would tell me to stop being dramatic, which was true. And then, yeah, I just kind of grew out of it, I guess, eventually. But
so your dad was just like, get over it. It's pretty supportive.
A little bit. He was supportive.
It's pretty supportive. I like it.
I was emotional, man. I cried hard when I was a little kid. And
yeah.
It was like, there's times to cry, and it's not in the middle of the mat when you're about to fight somebody or you just lost to somebody. Like, you do that on your own time kind of thing.
We had an adult that did that, didn't he? He quit in the middle of the match. Middle of the competition, sorry. Wow. So do you remember, as you got older then, why did you think you cried? Other than like, yeah, losing sucks. Was there any, do you remember, like, do you think it would be more than that, or is it?
I think
I hate losing.
A little bit of that for sure, just from like a maturity point of view, because I was like 5. I think I was crying because I worked hard, even though I was 5, like I would work hard at practice. I tried my hardest at practice. I did a ton of push-ups and sit-ups and squats and drills and stuff. And I was working hard for something. So when it didn't, end in my favor and in my way, it was like, it just hit me harder. It hit me harder, and I was disappointed in myself because I was like, I didn't get it done. I wasn't able to do it, so I'd be disappointed. And my dad was my coach too, so disappointing my dad, even though he wasn't, in my head. I was 5, so it was like, I lost, family disappointment, dishonor to my,
What exactly, and you don't have to say exactly, I'd say, what kind of things did Steve, her dad, say to you to like, kind of like, it's like, get over it.
Brush it off.
Do you remember? Or do you?
To the T, no.
No, not to the T.
It was more like
a small child.
Because I'd lose in practice all the time too, you know? So just whenever I did, it was more like just trying to keep me level-headed and just not get emotional over it was a big thing for me.
So it's safe to say that he was like, it's part of the process.
For sure. Okay. 100%. Yeah. Especially, my mom's pretty emotional, so I definitely got that side in me from her. Yeah. So I know. But I think it's definitely something there was like a balance to manage. Like he definitely was not harping on me like, shut up about it, like shove it down. Like it was not that.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
was like a level of understanding, like she's a kid, she's gonna cry, she's gonna get like you're gonna be upset right now, you're gonna get over it later, and then everything's gonna be fine tomorrow, so it's fine. That kind of was the general just tone of things. So it made me understand like being disappointed isn't a bad thing because you can grow from it.
Yeah.
But if you're disappointed and you just leave yourself in that rut and you never pick yourself back up afterwards or go back to the gym and work harder for the next time, you kind of, it was a
He
waste
didn't-
almost.
He didn't. So it's safe to say he didn't protect you from losing.
No.
Right.
When I, absolutely not. When I was a kid, I remember, I want to say I was like 7 or 8 years old maybe. Almost every single tournament I fought until the age of like 12, 13, when they really started splitting the boys and girls divisions.
Okay.
He'd put me in the girls, my age, my weight. He'd put me up a weight class or age group for a second division. He'd put me in a boys division. I fought like the Illinois State tournament for boys for judo when I was a kid, and I won it like a couple times.
Oh, wow.
Because I was always like, I remember fighting them up until like 12, 13 probably.
You said that around that's the age that you're like, hey man, I'm going to do this for like,
Yeah, I
take this
started.
pretty serious.
Yeah, I made my first national team when I was like 10 or 11. They have like an infantile Pan Am, so we went and fought in like Panama City. And at that point, I started taking it serious, and I was like, oh, okay. And I saw a lot of that because where I started judo when I was a kid, that head coach's daughter and son were, they kind of did the same thing as me. They just like missed Olympic qualification, but they were fighting like national teams, junior national, senior national teams. So I also saw a lot of that growing up, and I know they definitely played a big influence in me wanting to like do that as well.
Did they, so he didn't protect you from losing. Do you remember seeing a lot of safe to say that kids, when they start at a young age, they're not going to do, the chances of them continually doing it's slim.
Yeah.
I mean, back then, like, did you see a lot of that? Like, did you see a lot of like, I can't believe you lost type of thing? Like,
From parents?
yeah.
Yeah. I think I've seen all sides of it. When I was a kid, there's a gym, local gym-ish, whatever, that I've seen that are really hard on their kids. I've seen gyms that were like not hard at all on their kids. I've kind of seen everywhere on the spectrum along the way. I think the middle is kind of better just because, I mean, not everybody's the same. So I think it's important for those coaches, when you're coaching kids, especially kids, because they're still learning to manage their emotions, and like everybody's a different individual, of course, but kids learn different. Not everybody learns the same cookie cutter way. So as much as you want to force maybe like tough love, or like on the opposite extreme end, like being super soft and super like, it's okay, like here's your like 15th place consolation prize. Like as much as you want to be on either side of it, I don't think either is as effective as just looking at whatever kid you have in front of you and being like, this girl doesn't respond well. If I scream at her, I just need to take 3 seconds, have a conversation with her and be like, you need to do this better, and you did this good, and that's it.
Does it pay to talk to them right there and then, or later?
Like right after they lose? I think constructively right there is fine, but you definitely have to include the positives and negatives. When I was younger, I know just because I had a tendency to hold myself to a high standard for a kid, I'll say, if I heard like 3 negative things in a row and that kind of was it, like, well, next time do this, and next time do this, and next time do this, it harps on you. And I'm like, wow, like, okay, I just beat this girl, but I guess I suck a little bit. Once I was older, I understood that wasn't the case, but definitely like if they're like under 12 or 13, or they're just starting to compete, I think that's something that is hard for them to understand. If it's a kid who's competed a lot, I think you can start to kind of compartmentalize, like, I did this thing good, I beat her doing this, but she caught me doing this. So you can kind of sort out in your head how your match went and talk about it with your coach. But when you're so young or so inexperienced that you kind of don't fully understand what happened in your match, and all you hear is like, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do that, it kind of takes a negative turn in your head a little bit.
That's good advice to coaches and parents, because sometimes
it's easy to look at the things.
Yeah, it's easy to look at it as the overall is the negative, like, oh, my kid got beat in like 10 seconds. Yeah, but
Right.
I know even with adults, even and then kids, like, sure, we've had people go out there and get beat in like 10 seconds, and I'm like, it's hard to say like, oh, that's that's all negative, negative. And I'm like, no, it's, I mean, yeah, you got beat in 10 seconds and you got caught. Okay,
Right.
it happens, right? Hey, man, super proud of you going out there and doing it and getting ready for this, because I know you just didn't walk off the street and go on the thing. And I think people lose sight of that. Even the competitors lose sight of like, man, I got beaten 10 seconds. Yeah, but you also prepped for a long time, right? Like, yeah, the results weren't there. It sucks losing in that short amount of time, but
Yeah.
the positives start from start from when you start doing this, right? You signed up,
100%.
start training, coming to class, you're going consistently. And that's what, when I see that and there's a situation like that, I try to tell people like, hey man, like, like, it's not like you won by showing up. It's like, no, man, you did everything you could to get yourself ready for this, right? Yeah. I know you did because I saw you, and you weren't taking 2 weeks off. Then, oh, what happened? Right. Or going on vacation. I don't know why I lost. It's like,
and that's like big for me too. Like, even with, I mean, for myself personally, growing up, once I started taking judo seriously, like, confidence in my preparation was literally everything to me. Mm-hmm. Like, if I went out to a tournament and I lost, yeah, I'd be disappointed. But if I know that I did everything in my power, and my dad's power, my coaches, whoever I was working with, if I did everything I could to prepare and I still went out there and lost, it made me feel less bad, because I was like, I did everything I could. Yeah. It's not like I was like skipping runs or skipping training sessions because I was like, I'm going to go hang out with my friends, or I'm just going to like go take a nap, or like go watch a movie. I tried to be disciplined and balanced, which was hard, but like, I got there eventually, I guess.
How did your parents, do you remember how your parents kind of balanced getting you coming to class all the time? Like, do you remember, like, was there like, how's that balance happen? Like, because, especially because it's different, right? Because at the age of like 10, you started competing like internationally. Yeah. Like, how did your family kind of balance your schoolwork? Yeah. You're only 10, and then like trying to be like this high level competitor. How's that?
It was like my after school activity, I'll say. Mm-hmm. So like, I didn't do a ton of other sports until I started playing basketball too, when I was like maybe like 11 or 12. Yeah. That's just something, like, me and my brother always played basketball together since I was a little kid. So I already loved it too. And I don't regret doing basketball. I think it helped me balance. It was like my fun sport. Like, I wanted to be good at it, but I didn't take it super seriously. Like, I knew my goal was never to like go play collegiate basketball or in the WNBA or overseas or anything like that. Yeah. But I enjoyed it. So it was something like I still wanted to be good at and worked hard at, but it was just like I'm going to decompress. I'm going to go play some basketball, hang out with my friends, whatever. Yeah. As far as balance with my parents, like, my mom's a nurse, so she worked like some long hours growing up sometimes, of course. And a lot of the times, because my dad did judo too, he was like the one bringing my brother and I to practice. It was a close gym. It was like 5-10 minute drive. But yeah, that 3 times a week was consistent, just because I think we enjoyed it. And it was like, I'd go there and I'd hang out with my brother and my dad. Okay. So it was like fun for me. And I was really quiet when I was a kid, so it did help me definitely grow in confidence. Yeah. And it helped me make friends outside of school that I could hang out with. Or those were the kids that would be like at my birthday parties. Like, I didn't have a million school friends, but my friends at the gym, at judo, it was like a different bond, like a really close bond with them. We had a parent, and it's funny because I'll be honest with you, it's the first time the parent has ever, I'm sure they've thought of it, but this is the first time I've heard somebody say it, and I've been saying it for years. It's important for my kid to have friends outside of school, to have more friends, to have as many friends or, interactions outside of just one social circle, right? Yeah. So I think, and I think it is, and I think that's an overlooked
aspect of this, right? Of martial arts, because it's like not all their friends are going to do martial arts, right? And martial arts is a very niche thing. And, you know, while the other kids are doing basketball, football, you have all these other kids now. You immediately have something in common,
Right.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's funny that you say that, because again, that parent said it, and I'm like, I've been saying this for years, you know, like it's important for kids to have friends in different social circles, because it makes them, I believe it makes them more confident.
Oh yeah.
Because they see it themselves. They're able to make friends in one social circle. Hey, I'm also going to make friends here. I could probably make friends over there too, and this and that. And all of a sudden they're like, you're so quiet, but they're confident in the fact that they can walk into a social situation and be like,
I mean, even the kids, the couple years I've been teaching here, like a lot of the kids that we've had for I started with them maybe when they were like 6 or 7. In like the 2 or 3 years that I've been here, like consistently coaching, they've grown like so much in their confidence. Like they, you know, these are kids that used to walk in and kind of just like, and then you don't hear them say a word for the whole like 45-minute, 1 hour practice. Now they come in, they're like, Coach Nefeli, today at school, like we did this and we did this, and my grandma's bringing me ice cream later, and whatever random little thought bubble pops in their head, and they've definitely grown confidence.
Yeah, confidence and being comfortable. So you mentioned that you're coaching here, right? You've been coaching here for the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
Does that, knowing what you do when you're a kid, does that help you coach? Does that kind of like shape the way you deal with the kids? You shape the kid, you know, in everything you do?
For sure. I think so. Just because I think it makes a big difference in a lot of things who your coach is, but if these kids want to go on and like do, I mean, even like the Olympics, like I've in judo, at least I've done every like high level competition there is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty confident whatever level of competition these kids get into for the rest of their lives, whether it's like, they want to pursue like collegiate level basketball, baseball, like whatever it is, a lot of competing is like a mindset thing, a discipline thing, an organization thing, and a time management thing. So those are some skills outside of just like the hand-eye coordination they'll learn here and the conditioning and stuff like that, and being confident in themselves. Outside of those like very obvious things they'll learn at jiu-jitsu, I think that's what makes a big difference about how I'm trying to like structure their classes and like just even form relationships with them and have them like speak positively about themselves and others, and like be the amount of times I've said the word confidence in the past 2 weeks because we have testing coming up, I'm like, I don't need to see you guys just like show me an armbar from closed guard. Like I need to know you know how to do it in every situation, kind of thing. So being confident in the skill, not just like, I know how to do this one teeny tiny little piece of jiu-jitsu. It's not like very full spectrum. So I try to kind of throw in a lot of concepts for them.
On my way in here, I was thinking of, I don't know, in my head, I just think random thoughts. And I was thinking about confidence and how like, there's people who are super confident, which is great, but it means nothing in a skill based anything. You can be the most confident person in the world, but if you don't know how to do it, people are gonna realize like, you know what I mean? Like I can go in there and be like super confident and be like, yeah, I can play basketball with freaking high school kids. I'm like, I can go in there, and you see me, you're like, Jesus. You're like, Jesus Christ, what's going on over there? You know, like in that right there, it's a crude example, but it is what it is. And I think there's a lot of false confidence in I guess in martial arts where people are like, yeah, I'm super confident. Yeah, let me see. God, no, let's not do that. Let's not, let's cut that out. So it's not just confidence, but it's also confidence and acquisition or actual knowledge and application of the skill. When you're coaching the kids and you have kids, we talked about the competition. So when you see there's kids not competing, how do you, I wouldn't say treat them differently, but do you see like there's everybody has a path.
Right.
I deal with the adults differently. I still tell the adults, you're not going to compete, but you better train like you do.
Yeah.
Is that?
I try to so kind of going back to what I was talking about earlier, where like everybody just learns differently.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, the kids who want to compete, they're more of like, I put them in a bucket because for competing, there's a certain standard, and whether this is how you, I don't want to say learn best, but if you want to compete, there's a certain like standard, and there's things you're going to have to go through to grow and win at competitions because your goal is to win. If you're competing, your goal is to win. So for me, those kids will get treated a little bit differently, especially like competition practices. Like I'll push those kids.
Yeah.
Like those kids are going to work hard and they're going to get frustrated in here and they're going to grow and like get through it. That's just part of competing to me.
Yeah.
That's how I got better. It worked well enough. It got me to the Olympics. So I feel like there's some.
You had to throw that in there.
Yeah. Well, like it's like.
I'm just joking.
It was hard, and nothing good comes easy. But for the kids who don't like to compete, I also understand that because I had friends who didn't like to compete growing up.
Mm-hmm.
But I also had my brother who didn't compete a ton growing up.
Yeah.
So firsthand, like at home, like he competed when we were kids. I won't say that he loved it and it was like his favorite thing and he wanted to pursue it. Like he's a chemical engineer now. He went to U of I. He was like successful in his life still. He just took a different path. And for them, it's more like making sure they can learn and enjoy their time here and like have an outlet. A big thing I like the gym to be for these kids is like an outlet for their energy or just to like kind of take a break in their heads. I know a lot of kids like whether they're on like video games all day or they're like, kids don't really get outside and play anymore. I know, especially right now, school just started back up, so they're kind of interacting more with other kids. But there's a lot of times that for me growing up, the gym was like a good outlet and I just could kind of, reset here, and it still is, but I could kind of reset mentally and just like not worry about all my problems outside of the gym. When I was here, my head was here. I was focused on what I was doing here, and it definitely helped me a lot. And I'm sure it helps other kids a lot too. So I kind of try to tailor their focus more to.
Sorry about that. It's the phone's ringing. The gym phone's ringing. Yeah, it's always a tricky thing to try to like get the kids who don't compete and like what
to motivate.
Because it's easy to when the kids are competing, it's easy, right? Like it's almost easy. It's like too easy. Yeah. Right? Any idiot can do that. Like, sorry, but like they can. Like they're like, oh, I'm just gonna push the kids, right? Like, I'm not saying there's not hard work in there too, but like I'm saying like you said,
there's a clear path.
There's a very clear path. And then I know as an instructor, I always struggle with, okay, you're not competing. So I've always settled on, well, if you're not going to compete, you better train like you do.
Yeah.
Because your competition might not be 2 weeks from now.
Right.
It could be tomorrow because you might get jumped. I don't, like, you know what I mean? Like,
try not to say that to kids, but yeah.
Right. Well, no, I don't want to say that to kids, but like adults, I'm like, your competition is going to be some random dude at the Whole Foods.
Yeah.
Who knows? Like, who knows? And if you know jiu-jitsu and you gas out because you didn't train hard, that's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for me. Yeah. And it's surely embarrassing for you because you just got beat up. It's like a lot of people come in. So, I mean, what's your take on, because, we have kids that come in, they want, the parents, they want, discipline, focus, all that. Is, how do you address that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you, as an instructor, when you're like, you hear that, like, okay, well, it's discipline, focus, and how does that start in the program?
I mean, I'll always be in there making sure they're disciplined, focused, and whatever, but I'm only with these kids like a set number of times a week for a certain amount of time a week. So I'm not going to be able to make their kid like perfect or as perfect as they want in like 2-3 hours that they're here a week. I do my best. And when they're here, they're not going to mess around here. Like I can promise that, right? But when they go home, if there's no similar standard or even like a baseline standard of their parents, like disciplining them when they're bad, making sure they're focusing on the tasks that they're doing, like, I can only do so much on my end. I do whatever I can on my end, but sometimes that's like the frustrating part, right? Like, and sometimes those are conversations I have to have if a kid starts acting out here or we get a message that like, oh, so-and-so got in trouble at school. And I'm like, what? I'm like, they don't even talk when they're here. They don't mess around when they're here. But I think that also has to do with like, you know, there's a certain expectation back there. And there's a certain vibe back there. Like our kids that they see at the front of the line who are like, I'm not going to say more successful, but they've been here for longer. So they kind of understand like the do's and don'ts. And they've moved up in our program in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Those are the ones the new guys look up to see like, oh, like, I'll use Gavin Rose as an example, just popping into my head. Like his belt is tied good. He's ready for class. He's at the front of the line. He's leading us during the warm up. Those are the ones they look to. So if they have good examples here, they usually do better with that because they have some type of model student, I'll say, to base themselves off of and be like, okay, I should try to be doing kind of what this kid's doing. But at home, I'm not sure if that's always the case for them. I don't really, you know, we don't have any control over that.
So when the new kid comes in, what's the first? Obviously, we know they come in, you know, and they can try a class, but like when new kids come in, what is your goal when he or her or whatever gets started in the program? Like, as the instructor, what is your goal for those kids that just come in?
My goal for them more is to, one, have fun. I think as a kid, it's just so important. You have to make sure that the kids love the sport first. Yeah. If they're brand new, you know, yeah, we have a certain level of expectation here, but like, I'm definitely a lot more understanding if they've been here for a week and they're messing around in class. Like, it'll be addressed. Yeah. But I'm like, there's like a learning curve kind of thing. Yes, yeah. So the first month for them, I'll say like, you know, you kind of get on board with what the status quo is back there and what the expectations are. But yeah, I just want the new kids to enjoy their time here. And they usually get more motivated as time goes on. Yeah. Because they are learning with like a group of peers that are kind of near the same bubble as them. Because we have, the beginners group, an intermediate group, a more advanced group. So I think them being in those tiers of students, I'll say, helps them want to grow more because it's just like school. Like, you don't want to fall behind in school. Yeah. You know, you want to be able to do what your friends do and learn what your friends learn. And you can't do really cool stuff without knowing the basics. So I think they start to understand that and then they start to like it more and more.
When a child, through time, you said that they get a little bit more motivated, but I've also seen, I don't know if it happened to you when you're growing up. Did you ever you ever tell Steve, I don't want to go to practice today, Steve. I'm tired.
Oh, yeah.
What was his answer?
I will say on my end, I don't think I did that a bunch of times. I did go through a phase when I was like, maybe like 14 to 16 years old, that perfect little age group where you're just like that teen angst. You don't want to do what you don't want to do and you don't want to listen to anybody.
I'm tired.
I didn't want to go to practice. Yeah. My excuse, my practice was from like 8 to 10:30 at night. So it was super late for me. And it was in the city. So I'd get home at like 11:30 and I'd have school the next morning, wake up at 6. So I was exhausted. So I hated going there. But I still went. Yeah. It wasn't, once I made the choice to like take it seriously, it was more of like, okay, you made this commitment, follow through on it.
Is that what you would say to kids?
Here, absolutely, yeah. That's what
Nefeli, Coach Nefeli, little Jimmy doesn't want to come to class anymore.
Why? Well, one, I'd ask why, but if 9 times out of 10, it's because they only like doing class when we do like games or we have fun or whatever, which I understand. But at the end of the day, like, if a kid says that to their parent and then the parent's like, well, so-and-so, like, they're not having fun, they're not whatever, I'm like, they only want to participate when it's a game or when we're learning something new that they don't know or it's like very exciting for them, whatever, which I get, but that's not how life is. You know, you let them quit just because of that. And then it's like, well, they're going to quit a lot of other things down the road. You put them in this, they made this commitment to learn this stuff and they only want to participate when they want to participate. And unfortunately, like 90% of things in life, there's stuff that's going to pop up that you don't want to participate in. And there's a lot of that stuff you don't have a choice. Yeah. So you can't just be like, no, I'm good. Like I wish that was the case sometimes, but it's just not. So I think that goes back to the whole, like, I set a certain standard of discipline back there and cross my fingers. Hopefully it's being matched or there's some level of it at home too, so that the kid can be like set up for success.
Yeah.
If you have no like ground rules for your kids or like anything at home and it's like a free for all, and then they come here, it's not setting them up for success, because they'll come here, they'll get yelled at. Maybe they listen here for 45 minutes, but they go home and and they're crazy. And then the parents are confused, and I'm like, are you confused? Like, why are you confused?
Yeah.
So that's kind of probably the more consistent.
You could be a smart ass and be like, I don't know what happened. He's fine in here. It was
sometimes
discipline.
It's the case. Like
discipline. Yeah. No, I think the majority of the parents that we have here are pretty good, but I know I get it. I've seen it. We've had them in the past where we're the only
structure.
Yeah, we're the only structure, and we're the only voice of discipline. And there were no. When I use the word discipline, people take it. They take their mind goes other places. Like, yeah, they have to do it. Like, there's got to be consequences. There's got to be consequences. Kids have to have consequences. If they mess up, there's got to be a consequence. Whatever your style of parenting is and consequence, do it. But there has to be a consequence. It has to be a consequence.
And people forget, like, there's not always. It's not like consequence isn't inherently like a bad. There's good consequences and there's bad consequences. So like, you can reward the kids for doing good stuff, but when they do bad stuff, like, you have to at least address it.
Yeah.
The amount of times, like, it doesn't have to be like the worst consequence ever. Like, you weigh it with what the damage done was, but like, there's like a balance, right? Like, there's got to be a balance of some sort, or else the kid has no radar or like baseline idea of
accountability.
Yeah.
Kids need to learn accountability. I feel like at a young age, right? You don't use that word.
Right.
And I think people, I don't know, I feel like because of the word.
Use responsible, because I hear it at school a lot.
Responsible, right? Accountability. Yeah, but like, there's got to be that. You might not use that word, but they got to know, like, you messed up.
The concept. They know the
you messed up, so this is what's going to happen, right? Like, you're going to get punished. Whatever the punishment is, whatever the style is at home, it's going to happen. And don't be like me and my dogs. You have to see it through all the way, I feel like.
Yeah.
I can't discipline Daisy. I'm like, oh, come here. Yeah. So what did Steve say what did your dad say when you're like, I don't want to go?
Get in the car, let's go.
So he just forced you to go. He was just like, get in the car.
I truly think he did his best to like make me understand why we had to go. It wasn't just, both my parents, they weren't just like, we're going right now. It was.
So what did they say?
So it was like when I'd go down to Chicago for big tournaments, let's say, usually that would be like maybe 2 months, 3 months before I had like a big competition, like a national team competition or something bigger, not just some local, like whatever.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, well, listen, like, you have this big tournament coming up, so what are you going to do? Just sit here and kind of like hang out? Like, you have to improve and like peak for this competition, basically, was the gist of it. So it was like, if you're like skipping practices just because you don't feel like it, it was like, know your level of expectation with what you're doing. So that was kind of, I guess, the conversation of like the consequence. Like, if I'm skipping practice, directly correlated with that is me probably not doing as well at whatever competition I have coming up.
Yeah.
So that was a consequence, not one that he put on me, but one that I put on myself by being like, no, I'm good, I'm not going.
What would you say to a kid that doesn't compete then? Like, I don't want to go, because competition's like, hey, you don't come, you're gonna mess up in you're gonna lose the competition, basically, right? When it comes down to it. But like, let's say a kid doesn't want to compete. He's been doing it, she's been doing it for a few months, let's say 3 months, right? They go in, all of a sudden that fourth one hits and they're like, I don't want to go today.
Yeah. First thing I usually do is I ask them why. Because a lot of times they don't know why.
Yeah.
Sometimes kids just get this idea in their head and they're just like, no, I just don't want to go. And I'm like, okay, but why? And they think about it and they're like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, so I can't help you if, I can't read your mind. So if you can't really let me know what's going on, I would like to help you and I'd like to make your experience here good and for you to have fun and not be stressed back here and not take it so seriously all the time.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes the kids that don't compete, they feel pressured to like do well back there or with whatever they
Yeah,
feel stressed or pressured. So I think having that conversation with them helps alleviate some of that pressure and helps them understand, like, you guys don't all have to be like LeBron freaking James back there.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. I hear you. Just go back there, try to learn something and have some fun. That's probably my biggest, like, the bucket I put them in. Because with the kids who compete, it's like, they're a little more relatable to me personally because that's what I was. That's what I am. Right.
Yeah.
So for them to get into their frame of mind isn't so hard for me. So that's why with the kids who maybe aren't as competitive, a lot of time that's a personality thing too. Maybe they're not as aggressive or they're not as like they don't like sparring. Like, let's say the kid doesn't like sparring, they're scared to spar. And I'm like, okay, like you don't have to go in there and do, like, I'll put them with like one of the younger kids and like, okay, we'll help this kid learn, help another kid learn, kind of thing. So just reframing it so they still have fun and so they have a positive experience back there as opposed to like, I don't know, getting beat up and stressed about it and something like that.
Oh, I lost in practice. Because, I mean, we have a lot of, I mean, it's always common, right? Throughout, I mean, you know, I don't know how many times I've heard a parent go, my kid doesn't want to come here. But he's fine when he's here. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
It's almost like just get him in the car, bring him here.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, I almost kind of want to like, just come in, you'll be fine. Just come in. Look, you know, look at your friends. They're over there.
Yeah. 9 times out of 10, they'll go back there. They'll do the warm up for 5 minutes and then they'll be having fun. They're like, oh, this is cool. Like, I'm good.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, see, so you didn't know why you didn't want to come here. You just
The exercise cleared their head.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like it's
all the time.
The exercise, the whatever, the push-ups, the warm-up, just, oh yeah, I'm fine. Yeah. I'm good here. Yeah. You know, and it's hard to sympathize with parents. It's hard to relay like that, right? Like you have you know, the kid starts crying, doesn't want to be in the car, doesn't want to get in the car, is crying all the way here, doesn't want to do it. And it's frustrating. I get it. Yeah. But like, I don't know. Maybe it was easy because we had, you know, with Ian, because he was always with us. And like, we're like, oh, you're doing this. Like, you know, get in there, you know. But there's times where he's like, oh, I don't want to do it. I'm like, why? You know, I'd say thing. I'm like, why? Well, I'm tired. Me too. Get in there. You know, like I would force him. I would like, just get in there. Yeah. But I know that's not everybody's way.
Right. And that's kind of the whole, like, so like Ian's a little more passive sometimes, right? So he's kind of, sometimes you got to give him like a little kick in the booty. So he like goes and does the thing he should be doing. And then he's fun. And he goes back there and he has fun. He does open mats and he beats up all the adults and whatever, you know? So it's like a personality thing. Like if it's a kid who doesn't have it in him to go out there and like be confident and have a good time, whatever, those are sometimes the ones I have to have conversations with or just like kind of understand where their head is at.
What kind of expectations do you think the parents should have when your kid starts? Because I've talked to parents. Obviously I talk to them a lot at times. And I, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes the expectations are really low. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Like, it's just a handful. You know, like the kid was like, I didn't even know, whoa, you know, you know, wow, you know, and then there's this. Yeah. You know, that one kills me. Well, the only parents that their expectations are up here are people who've never done this sport or probably any high level sport of like any sort ever in their life. Yeah. That one bugs me more than anything, just because it's like, you're like setting your kid up for failure. Like you're telling them to show up here and be better than everyone. One, that's not good for them because then it doesn't become confidence. They're just cocky, right? And they go back there and they go against one of our kids who's been here for like a couple years and they get humbled and then it's a problem and they quit. Yeah. So that bugs me because for me, I mean, not for me, in martial arts in general, like being humble and being respectful is a huge thing. It's different now than when I was a kid even. Sure. Like I went to Japan a couple times when I was like high school age. I was like 15 the first time I went. I remember that, yeah. And that was like easily the hardest thing I ever did in my life. Like that was like my milestone moment where I was like, oh my God, like, am I doing this or not? And I came home after getting beat the shit out of me for 2 weeks. Yeah. And I was so humbled. I don't know if I was cocky before it.
It was more that like, my God, like these girls are like beating the crap out of me every day and I couldn't even do anything about it.
Right.
So I trained super hard for a year. I'm like, I need to change what I'm doing at home so that I can like be competitive with these people. Cause I was embarrassed, I think.
Sure.
Part of me was embarrassed. And then I went back a couple years later and like completely flipped the script. Like I was doing way better than before, let's say, and then I was fine. But I think like your level of expectation you have to be able to bounce back when it's broken.
Sure.
Is my point. So like when you come in here and you want to set your kids up for success, right? Because you want them to do this, or you want them to at least have a good experience. I don't think anyone wants their kid to try anything and just have like a really horrible experience. That's never should be the case, and it's never been here at least. But when you bring them in, just be like, listen, like this is a new sport for all of us probably.
Yeah.
And just tell them to like be patient and just learn whatever you can learn. Give them a couple months to like get their feet wet and like actually understand what's going on. Cause we've had kids come in who have been here maybe like a month or two and then they want to do an in-house tournament. And I'm like, sorry, no.
Yeah.
Cause I know it's going to be a bad experience. Cause we have kids who are competing regularly, or kids from a couple other of our sister schools, whatever, who are coming in to compete.
Yeah.
And like we talked about, like that's a different thing. Competing is a different beast, right? So I don't want to just throw some kid in because your mom wants you to do it. Like respectfully, like your mom doesn't know anything about this sport.
Yeah.
So you need to kind of like stay in your lane to some degree, right? And understand like as your kid's coach, I want them to be successful. I don't want them to come in and like get beat up. But if they've been here for a month or two and they barely know the rules, I don't know how you're going to put them in a competition and expect them to do well and not freak out and be scared. Would you do it?
My thing with that is, I know what you're talking about, and I'm just like, when we do these in-houses, even the in-houses, I always get scared because I'm like, if so-and-so or the child doesn't do well.
Yeah.
Right? And it's very telling after.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's very telling after, not from the child that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. How is it being dealt with at home? Because we know how we deal with it here. We're just kind of like, hey, it's part of the process. It's time to go. You know, like, it's fine, right? Like you're fine as an in-house. You're good.
Yeah.
Do you understand now? Like, okay, you know, let's kick it up. Right. And I've seen it where kids are like, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm done. So I think sometimes it gets taken as, oh, they don't want to do jiu-jitsu anymore. Well, no, they don't want to compete. They don't want to compete.
Yeah.
You know, and then it gets it in their head like, now kids, you know, and it's weird because now kids are like, sometimes they'll be like, kids come in and they're like, well, we're training to compete. No, you're not training to compete. You just entered a competition.
Right.
That's why we separate the kids. We're like, those are the kids that are competing. Those are the kids, they understand what's going on here.
Right.
But everybody else, and it's not a big percentage of the kids that are competing.
Right.
You know, I don't want to think that we, you know, doing that, the majority of our kids don't. And
correct.
You know what I mean? Like I said, those kids that are competing, they're easy. The other ones, it's like, we need to figure out what's going on. We need to keep motivating you. We need to keep you coming. Yeah. And then maybe we can look at that, but like, it's I just think parents should train. I think some of the honestly, I think a lot of the parents should just come in and do a month of classes.
Yeah, because then you understand a little what your kid is going through or what they're learning, or you can relate to like what they're doing. And the biggest part, you see how scary it is. Yeah. When you're a little kid and you're put across the mat from someone and you're told to like, not that they're hitting each other, but you're gonna fight the kid across from you. Yeah. That's really scary for some kids. Yeah. Some kids like are so like like they don't know, like they don't care, which is fine. But there's some little kids who take it super serious. And if your kid who's kind of just ends up having one of those guys, it's going to be a bad experience.
I used to tell the kids after, and I'm like, I used to point out, be like, you know what you did today? Exactly that. I was like, you know what you did today? You got the courage to step on this mat and stand in front of that kid and agree. They're like, we're going to get down right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's going to be, you know, we're getting into, you know, I tell people, we're getting into a physical altercation right now.
Yeah.
You're doing that on a Sunday morning or Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Like most kids are doing, what are they doing? Like they're not doing that, right? They're not doing that. So I always try to make it, I was trying to, even with the adults too, I'll say this to the adults. I mean, some of the kids, I'm like, you know what you did, right? You did more today than your buddy who doesn't do anything. What's your buddy doing right now? Oh, he's at home on his tablet. Yeah, he's on his tablet. Yeah. You just got down with some other kid. And
it's also not the same as like a basketball game, you know?
Right.
Like you're physically fighting the kid that's standing across from you. It's not like basketball where it's like it's a contact sport, but like you're not supposed to. Like if someone fouls you, you got hit, I guess, but you didn't get like taken down, you didn't get thrown onto your back, or you shouldn't have been, because it's not anywhere in that rule set. You know, no flagrants, but
maybe, yeah.
But it's I think sometimes the parents see like, oh yeah, like competition, like they'll do a tournament or they'll have a whatever. Okay, like it's a little different than just your everyday like, let's go to our baseball game on Sunday. And not the same vibe.
Yeah. And then even with kids that step in, right, they don't compete and they step on the mat. We're asking a kid to step on the mat, learn something completely different that they've sometimes never seen before. And then yeah, you're going to learn this now, and this is your thing now. And it's hard, and it's really hard. It is intimidating, right? Even though we do everything we can for kids not to get intimidated.
Right.
But they're kids. They're still going to get intimidated. You're like, we get it. We understand. Like, we're not dumb, but like.
I think a big part of that helps with the kids, at least, is like positional sparring.
Yeah.
Like if we focused on like attacks from mount and escapes from the bottom of mount for like a whole month, we'll just do like positional sparring from that spot. So they at least they have some knowledge in it. They're a little more comfortable in it, so they feel like they know what's going on. I think a big part especially the ones that don't compete.
Yeah.
Like the comfort zone thing is a big thing for them. So putting them in, like expanding their comfort zone little by little, I think through positional sparring has helped a ton with those kids. Cause I think their skill level, the couple that I have in my mind right now, has like been increasing up and up and up because they keep pushing a little past their boundary and a little bit more past their boundary. So they're widening their scope of like learning jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And maybe when they spar, they get a little nervous, but when they get put in those positions, they know what they're doing. They know what's going on.
So they're gaining confidence through training.
Yeah. And without like having to think about like, okay, like I'm doing a tournament, I need to beat this kid, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, like they're just positional sparring. Like it's fine. It's a game. It's not even like, it's not that serious.
Yeah. And then how does that translate to the kids that don't compete? I look at it as you get thrown to the ground and the bully's on top of you.
Yeah, you got to get up.
You got to get up, right? You got to get out, but you know how to get up because you've been in that position before, right? And it's going to be a little easier because that, maybe that bully doesn't know jiu-jitsu and you got out, right? Now you're on top or you're done.
Yeah, we've had a handful of kids like who've gotten bullied or pushed off their bike or at the park and they got shot, something like we've had a handful of kids that just kind of like kicked in.
Yeah.
When someone was like starting an altercation with them and they took the kid down and they just were like, weirdo, like, and they left. I couldn't
it's because in my conversation with Yuri, we talked about, and also with Alexis, where we made the joke of, if you do jiu-jitsu, you can walk into a room and be like, if I have to, I can take out everybody in this room. Not John Wick style, but like, I could put some people out if I need to.
If you need to, right?
Right. And I talked about that, and I talked that with Yuri, and kids get the same thing. Like kids, I'm like, kids also have that confidence, right? They might not be able to verbalize it like that.
Right.
But they're like, they know, like, they have that confidence, like, I know jiu-jitsu, right? Yeah. To them, it's like, I know jiu-jitsu. No, you know how to defend yourself.
Right.
You know how to get out of a situation that you might be putting into. And that's what I look at, even with kids competing, kids not competing. And it's like your kid has a confidence that most kids don't have.
Yeah, they don't even understand.
And it's the same confidence an adult has if they know how to fight, right? If they actually know how to do things, right? Like boxing, wrestling, all of it, MMA, whatever.
Yeah.
they walk into a room and they're like, yeah, I can probably pee somebody up real quick.
Yeah.
Your kids have the same, will get that same concept. They don't understand it. They're just like, I know jiu-jitsu. I know how to defend myself.
I think it helps them, you know, as far as bullying and at school and stuff. When you walk into a room with like your head up and you're confident like that, you know, you're like good.
You're not gonna get picked on.
Or at least the chances of you getting picked on are like, they plummet.
Yeah.
Right? When you walk in, like your head's kind of down, you're kind of awkward, whatever. Like that's who bullies like prey on.
Yeah.
That's who they piece out. That's who they find in the classroom or whatever to pick on. So
it's like that. What's that basketball player? Who was it? It was in college. He missed a shot or something, and he was like walking around with his head down. And his teammate goes, "No, lifts his chin. Lifts his chin." And he goes, "No, no, no, no." And I'm like,
"Yeah, important.
It's important. It's like, yeah, you messed up, but like, it doesn't define who you are, right?
For sure.
It's like, okay, you missed a shot. It doesn't define who you are, and I think that's important too. Like, it when you lose, it doesn't define who you are, right? I say that to the adults. I'm like, you lost. It doesn't define who you are. If you look at the guys that are doing, the guys and gals that do this, they compete. The difference between them, and I've always told people, the difference between them and us is obviously there's a lot more, but their mentality of competition, meaning like you're going to compete so much that you're going to get a loss, right? Sure. You're going to get a loss. You're, you know, unless you're Gordon, I guess, right? Like you're going to get a loss.
Right.
You're a vet, and he's lost too. It's been a while since he's done it, but he's lost too. It's not like he came in and never lost a match from white belt all the way to now, right? Like, no, he's lost matches, right? That's what, for him, he's hunting down the people that he lost to.
That's what I was going to say. A lot of the greats, like, that's how they operate in their head, and that's how they got great, by losing. Because you bounce back from losing so hard almost that you end up being like the GOAT. Yeah. Like Michael Jordan was the same thing. Like, what, he didn't make his JV basketball team? Yeah. And then he turned around and turned into like the man.
Yeah. Even in the NBA, he still lost, right? He came in as a rookie and this team was horrible, right? And then he got hurt, then he came back, and then he started finding success, and then he ran into the Pistons, right? And then he ran into the Bad Boys, and the Bad Boys legitimately threw him around. Yeah. And then that's when he was like, he didn't become the GOAT until the Pistons. Yeah. Until and then sometimes you have that adversity. Right? And it was 2 years. And they're like, oh, he lost. No. Jordan was getting his butt kicked literally by the Pistons for a couple of years. But the two ones that are the ones, because they won back-to-back championships, and they literally were beating him up because they were threatened, right? Yeah. And then like he was like, I need to get stronger. I need to get better. I need to work. And then that's when I'm like, oh, and that's when he just went this way. For sure. Right? And that's what I feel like needs to relate. It's like, to adults and, you know, and it's like, hey, man, like you lose, you know, it's okay. It's part of the process. It just depends on how you deal with the loss. That's what with the kids too. Like kids don't know how to deal with losses, and that's when I feel like the parents come in and play a crucial role of like, it's okay. It's not just on us as coaches, and at home where I'm like, hey man, like, it's okay. It's all right. You lost. All right. You okay? All right. Everybody loses. Let's move on.
Yeah, it's okay. Sure.
And I think that's a crucial conversation that needs to happen, either with yourself as an adult or kids, and a parent with the kids. So does your experience being as a kid all the way up, did that shape how you're the coach?
Yeah, for sure. I think just learning about what affected me mentally, I'll say, and what I just didn't care for changed a lot for me. I mean, no one loves to be screamed at or yelled at or like any of that stuff. So I really limit like how much I get on them. Yeah. It's more, I have a lot more conversations with these kids than I had with my coaches growing up, I'll say. Yeah. My dad's kind of an exception, but like, it's my dad. Like I'm at home with him or I'm at the gym with him. Like I couldn't escape it per se.
Couldn't get away from Steve. He was everywhere.
But he was my dad, so like, of course he's going to have a conversation with me. So that relationship's a little different. These are not all my kids. So I have to take the time to sit down and talk to them so they understand. We have an understanding of where both of us are at. Yeah. With like a level of expectation. Sure. Because even for the kids who do compete, there's like a baseline level of expectation. Yeah. But if it's like Frankie, for example, who's been competing for like years and years, yeah, I expect a little bit more out of her than our 7-year-old white belt who it's her first tournament.
Sure.
You know? Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
So
even when Frankie started,
Yeah.
she came in after a couple months and I was like, you want to do this? She's like, yeah.
yeah.
And I'm like, okay, go. And they're like, I'm like, go, let her go. And like, I didn't expect her to win and she didn't.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. She won one match out of the 3.
Yeah.
She won 1 for 3 or 1 for 2. And I looked at her and I go, you understand you just beat another kid who's been training probably way longer than you have.
Yeah.
And I feel like using that like with no expectations and being like, oh my God, what just happened right now? I think that kind of.
I try not to put a bunch of pressure on the kids when they compete. The only pressure I put on them is pushing them here as far as like doing things the right way, not doing the lazy way out of stuff, not cutting corners on stuff. That's really important to me. But I think kids put more pressure on themselves, at least I did, than their parents think or than their coaches tend to think.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's easy to not think a kid takes something seriously. But yeah, so I try to limit how much pressure I put on them because I know in their little brains are probably freaking out a little bit. So I try to keep it kind of cool and composed and teach them to, stone cold, be composed. Yeah. And then you can breathe while you're out there. You can think while you're out there when you're composed. But if you go out there and you're freaking out in your head, probably going to freak out during the match too.
Yeah. Okay. So what would be your coaching philosophy with the kids?
My coaching philosophy.
If you have one, like if you have one that you can verbalize, I should say.
Man. Well, I don't know, but my philosophy overall, like everything is, I have 2. 1, without discipline, success is impossible. So if you want to be good at anything in your life, you have to actually be passionate about it and care for it and work for it. Nothing good will come easy. Mm-hmm. So that's a big one with the kids that I try to make them understand. Like your results of a tournament might not be, you could have worked really hard and still lost at a tournament, but at least you worked really hard. So there's a positive takeaway. Yeah. If you did nothing to prepare for this and you went out there and lost in 5 seconds, not going to feel that bad. Yeah. Right. The other one is like the humbleness thing. So like if you're good, you'll tell other people. And if you're great, they'll tell you. Sure. That's a big one for me. I hate when a kid goes out there and spars or something and they submitted whatever little kid they're doing a 3-minute round with. And they're like, I beated you. And I'm like, oh my God, like that is not what we're doing. Like, right. But I sit them down and I explain to them like, listen, you just submitted the same kid 5 times the same exact way for 3 minutes straight. Mm-hmm. You don't think they know that happened to them and that they already feel bad about it? Yeah. I'm like, you guys need to understand, like if that was you, you'd probably be pretty upset. And you'd be even more upset if the kid walked up to you and said they beated you. Beated you. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. So then they're like punished for that. I'm like, do some push-ups, like 20 push-ups, whatever. Yeah. Cause I'm like, you need to understand, like, that's like super rude. Yeah. Like it's okay to beat people. Like they know they just lost too. You don't need to like harp on them and make them. You're teaching them respect. Yeah. There's got to be respect shown to your opponent. Right. I think a lot of times it's like, they're really excited. They finally like. Right. Did the thing. Right. But I'm also like, okay, but bring it back. Like bring it back. Celebrate in your head. It's okay to be happy about it, but you don't need to tell the person you just beat that you're super happy about it. Because I'm sure they know. Yeah, that's the thing. Like you always try to you win with humility, right? Like act like you've been there before, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever celebrated. I mean, yes and no, right? If it's a super tough match for the kid and our kid won, I'm like, good job. Because I'm proud of them because they survived that adversity they had in that match and they came on top. For sure. You'll never see me like jump up and down and be like, yeah. Oh my God. And it's like, I would never celebrate a 5-year-old winning. I know there's a lot of schools out there that do that. And I think that's what makes us different is like, we're real. We're real. They also learn off of us, right? Yeah. So if I'm like freaking out in the coach's chair and I'm like super hyped, like, I'm happy for them. Of course, like I'll give them a hug, but I'm not going to like spin them around and like do all this crazy. I'm like, good job. Like you did very well. You did X, Y, Z. Great work. Sit down, take a break. We got one more or whatever. Yeah. You got to keep their head level. Cause a lot of times too, if they win their first match and then they're like heads everywhere crazy cause they're so excited, you got another match in like 3 or 4
Yeah.
minutes here. So you got to like be composed, bring yourself back down to like the earth,
Right.
and then kind of keep it moving.
Yeah. It's almost like a workman's mentality. It's like, all right, the work's not done. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I dig about all of us, because I think we all have that. At least in the adults program we do, like we have that we have that mentality, that workman's mentality of like, job's not done, we still got another match, or whatever, you know what I mean? Or, oh, bad day at work today, or whatever it is, you know what I mean? Like, so we always like to keep that along. But any closing things before we end this?
I don't think so.
No?
No, I don't have anything cool to say like Yuri. I didn't think that far ahead.
Like Yuri and Alexis, but
Alexis, sorry.
no, it wasn't cool with her. No, I'm joking. But all right, I think that's pretty much it. I think that wraps it up
Cool.
for us.
Thank you for having me.
No, I appreciate you coming on. I think you had a lot of insight in the coach's mind, really. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a lot of insight, because I don't think that as possibly as hopefully the parents are listening to this and they kind of maybe get into our head
Yeah.
of what we're,
Kind of
how we think, what we understand where we're coming from. And also, parents, if you're listening to this, hey, come in and train. Come in and train and experience what we're doing.
Yeah.
So you have a better understanding of like what we're doing and what exactly is going on here. I think parents should definitely do that. But cool.
Sure.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
For having me.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and remember, you can follow us on all your favorite podcast apps. New interviews will be available every 2 weeks. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at Lake County BJJ, where you can find this episode and past episodes, and if you enjoyed them, please give us a thumbs up. For more information about our Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu programs, please visit us at LakeCountyBJJ.com. From all of us at Lake County BJJ, thanks for listening. See you next time.